guys, today I'm here with another layout. It's another process video with an 8.5 by 11 layout this time. Today I'm going to kind of do a little bit of mixed media, mostly watercolors and then some layering on top of that. So first I'm just taking my gesso and rubbing it all over this 8.5 by 11 white piece of paper, and it's just a white piece of paper that I had in my stash, nothing special about it. So I'm just taking dry baby wipe and wiping the gesso all over the surface because it just is going to give a nice area for the watercolor to sit on and not eat up the paper and warp it any more than it already is going to be, since it's not a watercolor paper, it's just a regular plain cardstock. So now I'm going to look at the papers that I'm going to be using and then kind of pull colors from that from the paper, from the watercolor palette, and kind of make different stripes of color up and down the 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then I'm going to kind of try to dry things in between a little bit just so that the layers don't get muddy in between. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And I'm going to do a blue, a pink, a gray, and I think that's it. I may add a little bit of other blue at the bottom. I can't quite remember. So here, this is just going to mimic the colors in that pattern paper, and the collection I'm using is from Pebbles. It is the Valentine's Day collection that they had out, and I really like it. It's so adorable. It's got some really cute icons, and the paper is just really cute. It's got little paper airplanes, hearts, all kinds of different stuff. A lot of little icons like "we go together like peanut butter and jelly" and "I love you to the moon and back," those types of sayings. So it's a lot of fun. So here I'm just drying up the rest of the watercolor that I put down, and then after I do that I'm going to end up putting on some black splatters with the watercolor, and I'm just using the black watercolor here. And this palette I got at Michael's. It was a really inexpensive color palette from Michael's. It's really nice if you just kind of are mixing or playing around with the watercolors and things and you don't want to spend a lot of money. I think it's a lot of bang for your buck if you're not doing anything real fancy. So here I'm going to try to put in a black splatter, and I really don't like how that looks. And the nice thing about prepping your paper with the gesso first and then having the watercolor is you can kind of just wipe it off. And so I just kind of wiped it off and kind of fixed my little boo-boo with a little bit extra watercolor, and then I'm just going to put some sprinkles back on, and then I'm going to end up using my Heidi Swap mist to put the drops on. It just gets a better color. I think the watercolor kind of gives a gray look when you make the drops, and it's just not as bold black that I kind of wanted it to be. So I'm going to shake up my mist, and then I'm going to use my paintbrush and then add that on. And like I said, I'm going to try to add some bigger drops since I added the tiny smaller drops with the watercolor. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of the tiny drops with this brush too, just to kind of tie everything together. So I'm going to dry that up. And now it's pretty dry. I'm going to keep drying, and I kind of set it to the side. It dripped a little bit, but that's okay. A lot of this is going to get covered. I would have preferred that it didn't drip, but it's all good. So here, while that is finished drying, I'm going to go ahead and ink up my edges of all this paper. I'd already laid out the different paper that I wanted and kind of configured it the way I wanted it. Instead of sitting here boring you with that, I just kind of did that off camera. And I'm actually going to make this whole cluster, and then I'm going to end up modifying it a bit because the layers were just too wide and I really want them to be tighter in. I really like how people do a much tighter layout or tighter layers, and I always seem to end up making mine so huge. I don't know how people can get so many layers on their page and then have such a tight little cluster. So that's something I want to work on because I really like the look of that. But here I'm just going to ink up all the edges. The ink that I'm using is a Prima chalk ink. I can't remember the name of it, but it's just basically a black chalk ink. And I'm going to ink all the edges and then glue everything down. And then again, like I said, I'm going to kind of bring them all in a little bit more after I try them on the layout. That's going to be not quite what I'm looking for, and I'm just going to modify it slightly. But the basic configuration is the same. And I'm using my HEG gun to adhere everything. I like it because if you put it in a place you don't want, you can easily rub it up and get it off of the layers. You can also, it also adheres really well. So if it's, once you want it permanent, it will stay permanent. I haven't had anything fall off my pages. I've used my snail adhesive, the little snail adhesive that you can get. That seems to not stick very well. It seems really good at first, but then I always have things falling off, especially for cards and such. So I've never had any good luck with that. So this HEG gun I've really had a lot of good luck with, and it sticks really well. So here I'm just kind of measuring some things out, making sure it's going where I want it to go. And again, just inking up all those edges. And this picture is a picture of my daughter from last summer. We went to a Mustang, or actually just, I think it was just all Ford cars, but there's a huge Mustang section, and my husband is in love with Mustangs. So we went to this little park with this really actually big show. I was pretty impressed with how many cars were there, and we got to see all the different Mustangs and things like that. So my daughter was standing by this particular Mustang. It's a Mustang Cobra. It's a Shelby Mustang. Um, so that is what we're standing with. And see how that, it was just way too big. It like took over the whole page, all that watercoloring, you could barely see. So I didn't like it. So I'm going to have a do-over. And I left this in again just so you can see that this is something normal. I mean, if you don't like it, just pull it apart and get it the way you want it to get it. And I am kind of picky, and I'll play a lot. But this layout came together relatively quickly. And I found that the 8.5 by 11s do come together pretty well and pretty quickly, which is nice because then you can get more scrapbooking done. I'm not necessarily in a rush, but sometimes it's nice to get a couple pages accomplished in a short period of time. You feel like you've used your time wisely, I guess. And then you can see how those drips are pretty much covered up by all those layers. So even though it dripped and I didn't quite like it, it's okay. It all turned out okay with the embellishments or the paper layers all covering it. So here I'm just going to use the various different pieces that came in the collection kit. I'm going to use this tag that says I love you, and that's going to be the name of my layout. And then I'm going to use various other pieces of vellum and die cuts and things like that that came in the kit. That gray and that teal doily, that was something that I've had in my stash for just a little bit. I believe I got them both at Michael's in like the $1.50 area. So that's where those had come from, but everything else is from this Pebbles kit. So I'm going to play with a couple different things. I'm not going to use everything that I pulled out here, but I am going to use that vellum, what is it, the vellum heart. I can think of what that word was. Vellum heart, and that other little blue heart that says you rock. And then I'm going to use some of these items from the sticker sheet. I'm going to use the little paper airplane up in the right hand corner, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to like it, so I'm going to end up putting it on this wax paper, and that allows me to kind of see through, but then still play with placement. If it's something that I don't really want there, it's not been stuck down, and then I can still use the adhesive, so I like that. And then I'm inking the edges just to mimic the inking that I did around the paper. And I'm going to end up putting down that vellum heart with my Xyron adhesive. I've said this before, but it's a really good adhesive to use to get the vellum down without actually seeing the adhesive, because it puts a really nice coating of adhesive throughout the whole back of the vellum piece. So I really like that. So here I'm just inking up the sticker. I did decide that I do want to put it there, so I inked it up with the Prima ink, and then I'm just putting some pop dots. These are Stampin' Up! Dimensional pop dots just to pop it up off the page. I thought with all the layers it just needed a little extra shadow underneath. So now I'm committing to the different embellishments and things that I've picked out. I'm going to also pop up that You Rock heart, and then it kind of mimics what is up in the top right hand side. And then I'm adding that vellum heart down. And these are some little epoxy stickers that we got in the kit. That came in the Pebbles kit. And this kit actually came from craftysteels.com, and I got a really good deal on it. It was awesome. But I love these little like enamel type of stickers, or like a glossy sticker that are kind of thicker, a little puffed up a bit. And then these hearts also are from the collection, and these are also enamel like, and there's a ton of them on that sheet. And they also gave us a ton of these stickers. The collection pack from Pebbles comes with so many of these little stickers. I'm never going to be able to use them all, but they'll be good for my planner and for my daughter and things like that. So whatever I don't use, I'm sure my daughter will find a place for. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to show you some close-ups. I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't done so already, please do. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and if you have any comments, leave them below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.